There are some things worth waiting for, like Christmas and fresh baked bread. But as far as plants go, there are some plants that nobody has time for. So today I have a list for you of plants you should just buy big. Welcome to my channel. I'm Cece with One Green Pea. One thing that I speak about a lot is how important it is to add to your collection mindfully, meaning purchasing plants that speak to you, that fit in with your care needs, with your space, with your overall aesthetic. If you're looking for a statement plant or a special feature of a plant, such as a flower, or you just like the adult look of a particular plant, then those are plants you should definitely buy big. Today, I have a list for you of my top plants that I think you should forego the baby and just buy big. The first plant on my list of plants you should buy big is the Hoya. Now I understand Hoya is a giant species and there are a lot of varieties, but in my experience, most of the Hoya in my collection are really slow growers. In addition, one of the most exciting features of the Hoya is that they flower spectacularly. They just don't do it very often, and they don't do it until they are mature. So if you're looking for a Hoya flower, definitely I would suggest buying a mature or bigger plant. Take, for example, this Hoya compacta. It's a beautiful plant, it's really cool, I love the variegation, I love how funky it is. This plant has doubled in size since I got it, and it's been a couple of years. So it's a super slow grower. It's gonna stay small for a really long time. Another example is my Hoya shepherdii, or the green bean plant. As you can see, the vines do grow all the way up to the top of this trellis, and I even have tiny flowers hopefully about to bloom. But again, I've had this one for several years and it's really not substantially grown at all. So in hindsight, I would have gotten both of these plants a little bit bigger. The second plant on my list is the Pachira aquatica, or the money tree. The money tree is a fairly slow growing plant. It continually puts out new flushes of leaves, but it doesn't grow tremendously fast. I propagated my money tree, and first of all, I want to tell you, it took forever for the cuttings to root. Eventually they did. And this is how much it's grown, I would say, in about a year. Now, reasons that you would not necessarily want to start with a small plant is that the plant needs to be braided for stability. So most of the larger plants that you purchase will have several stems braided together, and that gives those thin stems stability as the plant grows tall. And when you get a smaller plant, that's generally not the case. So this one is going to need support until they grow long enough that I can braid them together. And finally, the juvenile plant looks exactly like the adult plant, so there's nothing substantially different, nothing exciting that happens as it grows. So with the money tree, I would start big. Next on my list of plants you should buy big is the one way back in the corner, my bird of paradise. Now the bird of paradise is a statement plant. That's why people own them, because it's a furniture type of plant. It doesn't grow very fast, and the smaller plant looks just like the adult plant. It's just smaller. And what's exciting about these plants is their giant leaves and the big jungle vibe. And you just don't get that from a small plant. And it would take a really, really long time to get a small plant into a much larger version. So bird of paradise, buy it big. Next up, the snake plant, or the Dracaena, formerly sansevieria. This plant I have here came from a propagation, and this is probably 3 years old, so very, very slow growing. If you want a large snake plant, you really need to start with a large snake plant. Additionally, people generally buy snake plants to put in low light areas. And if a plant is in a low light area, even if it's low light tolerant, it's not going to grow very fast. Therefore, a snake plant in a low light area is going to stay pretty much the size that you bought it. So if you want a big snake plant, buy it big. Similar to the snake plant is the ZZ plant. The ZZ plant are known to be fairly slow growers and again, often purchased to put in a darker, less optimal spot, and that's going to stunt their growth as well. ZZ plants tend to only grow one spike at a time, so that's fairly slow and they're really challenging to propagate. This is the smaller version of the ZZ plant. It's called the Zenzi, and this one is even slower of a grower. I bought a second plant to put in my pot just so it would look fuller because it wasn't going to grow big anytime soon. So if you want a larger ZZ plant, you gotta buy it big. The final plant on my list of plants you should buy big if you want them big is the cactus. Cactus are extremely slow to grow. They barely change at all, and they really want optimal conditions, meaning a lot of light all day long, perfectly dry soil, and that's really hard to meet. And so it's hard to get good growth out of a cactus. If you recall from my companion video to this on plants you should buy small, I suggested that succulents you should buy small. Cactus are the exception there. You can see this jade plant is far outpacing his poor neighbor, the cactus. So if you want a larger statement cactus and you have the conditions for it, just buy it big. Thank you for watching my video. If you haven't yet seen it, definitely go back and catch the video I made recently on plants to buy small. I would love to hear your opinion in the comments. What plants do you think people should buy large? If you like this video, remember to give it a thumbs up, and I would be so honored if you would subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a single planty episode. As always, my plant friends, let's keep growing together a greener world.